Most people think udon is just a thick noodle, something chewy you get in a Japanese restaurant. Maybe swimming in broth, maybe stir-fried. But udon is not just a thick noodle. And once you understand what it really is, you will never look at a bowl of udon the same way again. Because the secret of udon is not in the recipe. It is in the craft. And that craft is far more precise than most people realize. So, what is udon, actually? At its core, udon is a wheat flour noodle. Just 3 ingredients: wheat flour, water, and salt. That is it. No egg, no alkaline solution, no coloring. And this is already the first surprise, because ramen, which most people compare udon to, uses an alkaline mineral water called kansui that changes the texture and color completely. Udon uses none of that. Its identity comes entirely from the ratio of flour to water, the type of wheat, and the physical process of kneading. That is what makes udon, udon. Not a recipe, a method. Now, where does udon actually come from? The most widely accepted theory traces udon back to China, sometime around the 8th or 9th century. Wheat-based noodles and dumplings were brought to Japan by Buddhist monks and trade travelers. But here is the thing most people miss. Udon as we know it today did not become a widespread everyday food until the Edo period, the 1600s and 1700s. Before that, wheat was not as common in Japan. Rice dominated, and noodles were considered more of a specialty than a daily staple. What changed everything was the growth of wheat farming in regions like Sanuki, modern-day Kagawa prefecture on the island of Shikoku. And Sanuki is still, to this day, the most famous udon region in all of Japan. You dissolve salt in water. The salt is not just for flavor. It tightens the gluten structure and controls how much water the dough absorbs. Then you combine them and knead. But here is the part most people never hear about. In traditional udon making, the dough is kneaded with the feet. The maker wraps the dough in plastic or cloth and steps on it repeatedly, folding it over and over. This is not a shortcut. This is the technique. The pressure from body weight activates the gluten in a way that hand kneading cannot fully replicate. It creates that signature chew, that firm, smooth, almost bouncy texture that separates real udon from the instant kind. After kneading, the dough rests. Then it is rolled out thick, much thicker than ramen, and cut into wide, square-edged strips. The noodles are boiled in a large volume of water and then either served hot in broth or rinsed cold and served chilled with a dipping sauce. And this brings us to one of the biggest differences between udon and other noodles. Ramen is almost always defined by its broth. Tonkatsu, shoyu, miso, the broth is the star. But with udon, the noodle is the star. The broth in a classic udon dish, like kake udon, is deliberately light, usually just dashi, soy sauce, and mirin. It supports the noodle. It does not compete with it. This is why the texture matters so much. If the noodle itself is not right, the entire dish fails. And this is also why regional styles make such a massive difference. Sanuki udon from Kagawa is firm, chewy, and square-cut. It is the style most people picture when they think of udon. Inaniwa udon from Akita is the opposite: thin, flat, delicate, almost silk-like, handmade using an air-drying technique that gives it a completely different mouthfeel. Kishimen from Nagoya is flat and wide, almost like a Japanese fettuccine. And Hoto from Yamanashi is not even technically classified as udon by some. It is an uncut, rough noodle simmered directly in miso-based vegetable stew. Same word, same base ingredient, completely different eating experiences. And this is the part most people never realize. Udon is not one dish. It is an entire family of textures, traditions, and techniques that evolve differently in every region of Japan. So the next time you sit in front of a bowl of udon, you are not just eating noodles. You are eating a craft that took centuries to refine. a texture that was shaped, literally, by human feet, and a philosophy of simplicity that only works when every detail is precise. The real question is not what udon is. The real question is, which udon have you actually been eating? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever noticed a difference between udon from different restaurants or regions? And if you want to understand what makes ramen so fundamentally different from udon, that is exactly what we explore in the next video.